Alright, so there's no setup for this video or anything like that. I went outside to bring in my trash cans, and I saw there's a sober living house in my area for females, which I thought was an incredible thing because in my experience when I lived in Trenton, I lived in a couple of sober houses for male, but there was one for women, 3 or 4 for men. And I really did. I thought to myself, like, wow, like, in my experience, there's a lot of women that are addicts. And to be honest, they make it a lot further because women can deceive men into taking care of them. And people are gonna fucking argue and say this or say that, but don't even, because any fucking junkie woman that I've met jumps at the fucking chance to take advantage of somebody. It doesn't even have to be a junkie woman, just a junkie in general. If they could take advantage of somebody, they will. When it was a couple years ago, before all my teeth broke and everything from the Crest white strips, not drugs. I was using them too much, I guess, and they ate fucking holes into my teeth, and all my teeth started to break and rot away. Now my fucking grill's fucked up. I don't care though, it's whatever, I can get them fixed. But, so anyway, a few years back I used to dance. I didn't get up on a stage and shit like that, but I did work the crowd, shit like that, and I made a couple $100 a night, which was nice. And I mean, I was doing so much fucking dope back then. It was ridiculous. When was that? Wow, that was like, fuck, like 2016, something like that. And right before I since 2008, I've been um, leaning towards staying clean. You know, I've had a couple of speed bumps here and there, but over the last 13 years, I mean, I've probably had 11 of them clean. I've had, you know, a couple of speed bumps here and there, but in the last 5 years, I haven't touched that shit because it's getting really dangerous and scary nowadays. Anyway, back to the females. I have a 10-year-old daughter. She'll be 10 in August, and that's the first thing I thought about when this happened. Because I'm like, wow, all the girls that I've talked to in those recovery houses and shit, because me having the experiences I have, I'd like to ask people questions about, you know, what led them to the drug use, or what they think anyway. You know, what made them think about wanting to stop, so on and so forth. If people have kids, parents, shit like that. And some of these girls, like, they don't even, I'm focusing on girls because the house was designated for females. But I'm speaking in generalities when I talk about addicts, because men or women, they both fucking, there's no difference in addiction for anybody, black, white, male, female, Indian, it don't fucking matter. Everybody experiences essentially the same shit. Just might experience things in a different order, like on different levels. Like, you can have two people that are homeless. One experience, like me, I was only homeless for like a year, and then you have other people that were homeless for 15 years. Or I was a heroin addict for 15 years, but then there's a girl that I met that was only on that shit for a year, and I told her how lucky she was. I didn't have anybody to steer me away from that shit. When I started using, my dad had just died, and I was hanging around with all people that didn't have my best interest at heart, but I thought they did because they were related to me. I'm not going to get into who they are and all that kind of stuff, because then people's feelings are going to get hurt, and fucking, I'm going to get messages like, oh, why are you lying about me when I'm not actually lying? Because people don't like the truth to be told. Man, I can't believe I'm doing this fucking thing this early. And I know it isn't early, but usually I wake up at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and here it's like 11 o'clock, and I just woke up. And I don't know why I was out all. I don't know how I stayed asleep like that. Anyway, so I think it's terrible that the people that own that fucking thing, it's only been there for like 2 years, and the people that owned it, they're getting a divorce, so they want to sell the fucking house and shit. And I'm like, bro, are you fucking kidding me? The house that they have is fucking beautiful. I used to date the girl whose parents owned the house before her father died. Her father is the one that was on the news years back in a road rage case where he followed a kid home and got out of the car, and the kid was only like 17. He was on the football team, shit like that. He punched the old man one time, and the old man fucking literally died. One hit. And the kid didn't go to prison or nothing like that because it was an accident. He was defending himself. That old man was crazy. His daughter, when I was dating her, used to tell me stories where he fucking like literally put her head out the window. He used to beat on them and shit like that. And if you watch my other videos, I told you about the abuse and shit that me and my mom endured when I was growing up. So I definitely feel compassion for people that have been abused, because I know what it's like to be one of those people. And it's really unfortunate because it's not fun. Because then people stop being people and they begin to be threats. So then you start to assess people by their threat level, and people you feel could be threatening you, at least I would be more uncomfortable with. But I would never show how uncomfortable I ever was, because in a lot of instances in life, if you show that you're scared, it's only going to be worse. So if you just stand firm and don't be moved, you'll be alright. Trust me. I was in prison for a couple of years, and had I not gotten into fist fights and shit that I did, I would have had a much rougher time. I was told. Like, I had gotten in a fight because somebody stole my food, and that there was two guys, and they actually did end up getting my bag. But then it's called an imam or imam. It's like the head Muslim dude on the block. He actually told me that he was gonna get my food back, and I'm like, man, I don't really know you. Like, I talked to you about Islam and shit and religion and everything, but I don't trust you to like do anything. The next morning at breakfast at 4 o'clock in the morning, he had that one guy out in the tier, and he was telling him like, where's the bag, this and this and that, and the guy wanted to act funny, and so Kareem's like fucking right hand man Dawu punched this kid in the fucking face one time, and the kid was like, alright, gave him the bag, no fucking questions asked. And in front of everybody in the tier, Kareem, his name was Kareem Anderson, I'll never forget him. He had been in there fighting a case for like 2.5 years before I even came in there. And I was in there for a year with him, and he was still sitting there when I left. I'm curious what happened to him. I've seen Turtle on the street quite a few times since I left, and he had caught like an attempted murder charge. He also got shot in his ankle a few years ago when I went out there to visit him, and his sister looked at me like I was fucking retarded. North Camden, knocking up on the door, some fucking long-haired white boy like, yeah, what's up, where Turtle at? They were Dominican, so it's Tortuga. And she's like, what the fuck? I was like, yo, just tell him this white boy here. And I'll never refer to myself as a white boy. And he looked out the window, and as soon as he saw me, he was like, oh! Motherfucker's crazy. Tortuga. His name was Carlos Jimenez. Sorry about the governments, everybody, but whatever, I don't really give a fuck. These names that I remember are people that had a huge impact on me in my my jail days, and people that actually showed me that you didn't have to be a super fucking tough guy to get things done. I didn't see Kareem fight anybody, and I didn't see Turtle fight anybody, but yet people respected them anyway, and I never really talked to them about other people and that kind of shit, because that's something that people just don't talk about. You're not gonna be like, oh, well, how did you get respect from people? Nobody fucking is gonna talk to you about that shit. And you also have to understand, when I went to prison, it was the first time I ever did a long stretch in jail. I never went past. In where I'm from, there's a 7-day lock-in. Past that is general population. I never made it to general population before this stretch in 2008. I had done like a couple days here, a couple days there, all fines and criminal mischief and little stupid shit like that. I keep forgetting what I'm looking for. And so yeah, man, like that's the kind of life that I had to go through, because you know, back in the early 2000s when I started doing drugs, there wasn't a whole lot of options for addicts to get help. That was 20 years ago. Wow, I can't believe it's been 20 fucking years. Oh my god, I can't even. Wow. Anyway, so my dad died my dad died in 2001. It's been 20 years since my dad died. I can't believe that shit. I got his picture up there and his ashes and shit. Holy fuck. Anyway, so yeah, like I never had, or at least, even if, I'm not really sure what was available back then. All I know is I went to like a detox for like 5 days. But there wasn't, I didn't know about long-term shit. So I ended up going to jail in 2008. I went for just under 2 years. Went to prison in Yardville. Everything was like about 2 years. I'll break all that shit down in a future video. I don't really want to get into it. This shit's long enough as it is. Sorry about the and all that shit. I don't have any time to edit. When I got out is when I started to learn and see how the recovery community really got down. I was forced to live in Trenton, a city I'd never been to before, never saw it before in my life, and I ended up having to live there for 3.5 fucking years. But I have to admit, it was probably the best time of my fucking life, because the people I met, like Jack Jordan, but he's dead now, Cortez, I forget his name, black dude, but he always was like, yeah, he's the one that made the joke about black Irish. He's like, yeah, my grandmom's Irish. He's like, you never heard about black Irish? And I'm like, motherfucker, I'm black Irish. This is what black Irish is. Dark hair and dark skin and shit. Because we made it with the Spaniards at some point. At least that's what history says. That's why like a lot of the northern Irish people are more fair skin and ginger and shit like that, because they are more linked to the English and shit. Whereas we're linked more with the Spaniards and the Vikings and shit like that. Anyway, not that this is a history lesson. But yeah, like, so I went to the Salvation Army right out of prison, and I never even had heard of the Salvation Army ARC, Adult Rehabilitation Center, which really, I mean, it was kind of like, it was a rehabilitation center, but not really. It was like a Bible camp kind of thing, where you would go there. There was like 100 fucking guys there. You had a couple of meetings at night, you know. Sundays you had church. Wednesday nights you had Bible study about Exodus, because the guy that would do that, he had, I guess he had found a lesson that associated, a lot of people associate Exodus with recovery. I've heard it done a few times because in Exodus, they're lost in the wilderness, and your addiction is kind of like the wilderness. And then when you get to the promised land, that's kind of like when you finally realize that life is about much more than just, pleasure and feeling, fucking. I mean, this is coming from a person that I grew up. My family's so large. I mean, there's Christians, there's Wiccans, there's just people that don't believe anything, people that are straight scumbags. I've had to deal with every kind of person in my life. But, yeah, I just feel like it's so unfortunate that as far as the information on addiction and how the body responds to that type of shit, that kind of stimulus and all that, there's so much more information out there, yet nobody really thinks about it until it's their daughter, their brother, their sister, their mom, their aunt, their uncle, their cousin dies from an overdose, or they're so strung out that the person isn't the same person anymore. I literally lost the relationship with my younger brother because I was on drugs for so long. From when he was like 5 or so to when he was, till I went to prison, he was 14. I came out of prison, he was about 17. And by then, he thought he was a grown grown man. I mean, he would come visit me in jail, and I would just tell him, don't do what I did. I can't tell you or show you what to do, but I can at least show you, see what not to do, right? And now my little cousin Austin, I'm kind of, I probably get on his nerves because I'm always like, yo, this is what I think, this is what happened to me, blah, 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 blah. But I tell him, like, yo, I'm not telling you what to do, dog. I'm just telling you what happened to me, and if you want that shit to happen to you, then it's more than likely going to. But now you know, so you can't say, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen. Yes, you did, motherfucker. I told you. And trust me, there's so many people that'll call me an asshole and this and that, but it's only because of the fact that I'm blunt. I don't play no fucking games. I love to laugh and joke around and all that shit. But when it comes to serious shit, I can be deadly serious. And my life has made me have to develop the ability to vacillate back and forth between being a light-hearted kid playing around all the time, but then also having to be able to switch to being a dead-ass serious adult at a moment's notice. And that's how my life has always been, especially living with people in my family that were unstable, and me thinking I was unstable. But I've recently kind of figured out that I think I'm more stable than I thought I was, as crazy as that sounds. I was on medication, I was on Zoloft and all that kind of shit, and it actually had an adverse effect on me. When I put the video up about my breakdown, or actually the video of my breakdown back in like December or January, I had no fucking idea why I kept having those issues, because I never had them before. And now, since I stopped taking that shit, I haven't had a problem. It's been like a month now, and I haven't I feel more like myself now than I did 2 years ago when I started the Zoloft. I think the Zoloft might have initially helped when your brain chemicals are actually low and shit like that. But then over time, because my body has a way of being very resilient. I can abuse the shit out of my body, but it usually comes back eventually for some fucking reason. But yeah, I know this was just a kind of a ranty video, and I'm gonna get to the whole editing stuff and all that, but this is, I mean, I'm broke as hell, poor. I just wanted to I want to get this information out there. I don't really care about what the video looks like. If I look, oh, I look so good, shit like that. I don't really give a fuck. It's about the information. People have to stop being so fucking self-absorbed that all they think about is themselves. I'm trying to fucking get people to realize that people aren't that bad. I hated other people for my entire life because I had so many negative experiences with them. But now I've discovered how good it really feels to help people that really need it. People that are really grateful for the help. It really makes you feel good when, I'll give you an example and then I'm going to go. My boy Gordon, when he came off the streets, he moved out to Arizona just recently, but this was a couple years ago when I met him, when he stopped getting high. And to this day, he still tells me, he's like, man, he attributes a lot of his getting clean to the stuff that the way I interacted with him. I don't know. I'm gonna have to get him to, I'm gonna have to record like a video thing of me and him or something so he can explain exactly what his reasoning is, because I don't know. I can't understand what kind of impact I had on this guy, but his story had a huge impact on me. But that's a story. I'll let him tell that another time. But yeah, it feels good to help people, and it's just unfortunate that there's so many addicts out there with potential, but we might not know it because it's so hard to find people that genuinely care. Even when people go to to get help for addiction, a lot of times the staff they run into don't actually care about the addict. They just care about getting their paycheck. And, so they don't actually go, beyond what is required to help these people. I mean, I saw it firsthand. So, and if you want to tell me that racism, dude, racism is another thing. Racism and discrimination and bias. I mean, it's just like, and it ain't from any specific people either. It's just people in general. Especially with the whole addiction thing. The stigma of addiction is so bad. But some of the best fucking people I've ever met in my life were strung out on drugs. But let me go. I don't want to fucking beat you guys in the fucking head no more. Like I said, like, subscribe, whatever, comment, let me know what you want me to talk about. I talk about anything freely. I don't give a fuck. You got a question, I'm gonna answer that shit. So be sure to ask it, because I'm not afraid to talk about anything. I don't give a fuck, as you can see. But yeah, let me I'm almost finished my coffee and shit, so let me get out of here. I'm gonna get some breakfast and shit. You guys have a fucking, a great day. Be excellent to each other. I just watched Bill and Ted not that long ago. I think that's gonna be my new sign off. Be excellent to each other. I think that's pretty dope. So, that being said, man, you guys love yourselves and each other. I'll see you, shortly.